So good evening, everyone, and welcome to OTF Connect. We have a great session tonight on financial literacy with Peter Wright, who works at Nipissing University, from what I understand. Peter and I just met tonight, and we had a bit of a scrambled introduction as I was having some technical difficulties, but I'm certainly looking forward to getting to know him and learning a little bit myself about financial literacy in elementary. And welcome to all of you as well from across the province of Ontario. So I'm going to turn my mic off, Peter, and I will turn things over to you. Welcome.
Okay, thanks very much, Susan. So yes, just to clarify things there, I was a teacher with Halton for 17 years and then with Grand Erie for 18 years. And after I retired from the classroom, I have been doing some work with the faculties of Ed at Nipissing as a faculty advisor and also teaching some of the AQ courses for Brock University and a few other things besides. I've been a math facilitator for the Ministry of Education, and I've been involved with this financial literacy initiative for quite a few years now. And the slide that is on the screen right now says that they have a new home. That's probably still fair to say. It's about 15 months or so now. But originally it was an arm's length entity of the Ontario Securities Commission. They used all the money that they got from companies that were defrauding us in the way of fines to actually set up an arm's length entity that had the mandate to promote the financial literacy of the people of Ontario. I think that's just poetic justice. It's beautiful. But when they amalgamated with some other security commissions, they had to divest themselves of that, and they looked around for somebody who would look after things and keep things going. And the good news is that OTF was lucky. They got the resources. And the even better good news that I can share with you now is that, the transition has been taking about 15 months or so, but we had a big conference on the weekend in Toronto, and we do now have some new lesson content for elementary, grades 4 through 8, and that will be posted on the website imminently. There was a couple of technical difficulties that we couldn't have it up for the weekend, but it is going to be up there within a day or two. So just to also clarify or expand on what Susan told you about the resources, yes, anything that I will be referencing during the webinar will be on the list of resources that I'll be sending to Susan after this session, but I also usually add a few extra ones that give some background to some of the things as well. So there'll be some additional links that will relate to things, but we won't actually be using them. Okay, thanks, Susan. That's the main one that we'll be looking at. Yes. And there was something else I was going to say to you just now. Oh, yes, I'm just wondering if I can ask if any of you have a special interest in French language, if you could give me a green check mark, and if you have a special interest in Spec Ed, if you could give me a red check mark, please. A red cross. Okay. So I'm seeing, okay, a couple at least more, a few more. Okay. Okay, so the good news is that there are some resources that address both of those aspects, and I will try and make a point of addressing those as we go through things tonight. So, okay, and if you have a question about what I'm saying or doing, the best time to ask it is when you think of it, and I'm very comfortable with that. So I'll keep my eye on that chat pod down there, and Susan is a second pair of eyes for me as well, just in case I miss something. So as I say, feel very comfortable if you have a question, probably somebody else in the group is thinking of that as well. So, okay, so we'll get started then. So I will be focusing on why we need to address financial literacy. I've sort of condensed that session of these talks now because I think most of us have a fairly good idea and are fairly convinced anyway why we should be doing this with our students. The what is the resources that are available and how you can access them and how you can use them. And so we'll move on, and I'll try and share as much as I can with you right away. So first of all, just to break the ice a little bit, Susan, can you play the video clip there, which addresses financial literacy and also math phobia as well, to be honest. But can you actually play it on the screen, Susan? Are you able to do that?
So there's no doubt that I will not be able to do that tonight because, okay, the link did show up in there. And I'm going to say that looking at everybody's, I'm seeing lots of connection issues. So what we find works the best on a night like tonight when people are having issues is if everyone clicks on that link themselves in the chat, it's going to open the link up in your own browser and it will play it. So Peter, there are ways of doing it, but it's never consistently successful. And I certainly couldn't.
That's fine, Susan. I've encountered some of those issues in the past as well. So
yep.
I'm quite comfortable with that. So
yep. So I mean, people should be able to watch it on their own. So how long is the video?
I think, just looking now.
So what I'll say
it's
maybe is,
I think about 3 minutes.
When you finish watching the video, just folks that are participants tonight, watch the video and then come back to our Blackboard Collaborate room and give us a green check mark, and that will let us know that you have seen the video. Okay?
Yeah, I'm actually running it on my laptop as well, so I'll get an idea too.
Yeah, perfect. Karen, I can see that your mic is on. Can you turn it off, please? I hear background noise.
Sorry. How do I do that? I just figured out how to join.
Touch the talk button in the top left, and it will turn off the mic. You use the same button to turn it on and to turn it off.
Microphone settings I'm in?
No, it's just in the Blackboard window. It's underneath the words audio video. It says talk.
Yeah, just turn.
Okay, I'm about 2 minutes into the 5-minute video right now. Okay, depending on how promptly you're able to start things, I think we should be getting to the end of that now. So anyway, I think you see my point there. So I have posted 2 more questions on the screen. What do you think is the current Canadian household debt level? One way of thinking of that is for every dollar that comes into a household, how much do you think that the household owes? And the second question there is, what is the #1 item Ontario teens are saving for? I'll let a couple of you suggest some answers in the chat pod there to either of those 2 questions before I go on to the next slide with the answers. Okay, that might be a total amount, but I was thinking in terms of, okay, how much in terms of an answer like John is just giving us there. And actually, I'm going to tell you, John, right away, you're pretty well spot on there. I had down, I think, $1.63 or $1.64, but that's exactly right. For every dollar we own, we bring into the household, we actually owe $1.65. And okay, somebody is suggesting car. That was a nice way of sharing that. Education car. We would love them to be saving for their education, wouldn't we? Teens are saving for a phone. Yes, we've all got kids, or grandkids in my case. Oh. Well, okay, thank you all. And it looks like we have a nice, eager, active group tonight, which is really going to make things fun. So if we look. So you were pretty close there, John, okay? And the #1 item that Ontario teens are saving for is clothing. Okay, so moving on quickly. This is another resource that was from a survey that was done about 3 or 4 years ago. Gives a little bit more detail, and I will be giving you the link for this in the resource. Clothing, entertainment, technology, gifts. Education does rate in there as #5, yes. Okay, thanks Susan for posting the link there. As I say, the list of resources that I'll be posting will have all these in them as well. And this was another survey that was done a little bit more recently in the States, but I think their kids are in some ways very similar to ours, and certainly they too focus on clothing. Food in there. So I'd like to get to some of the actual resources we're going to be using, but this is a very sobering figure in my mind. The total Canadian student loan debt in Canada is $14 billion. Okay, and those of us who spend a lot of time teaching at high school, there you are, Jessica. Absolutely, yes. And the reality is that we don't address financial literacy in the curriculum at any age. And the research is showing us that it's never too early to start teaching students about financial literacy. And this initiative that I'm so part of tonight in a way with OTF is a joint initiative with the ministry, and it's addressing all grades 4 through 12 and all subjects as well. It's cross-curricular. And by the way, for any of you who teach lower than grade 4, please don't be worried and don't sign off right away, because a lot of the content which is designated for a certain grade, with when you look at it, I'm sure you can very easily massage it and make it work for similar grades. So, yes, Susan. Yes, okay. Don't we all? I've got 3 grandkids at university right now. This was something which the ministry put together. They did a survey a few years ago of what students in Ontario felt would be important to them to prepare them for learning, working, and living in the 21st century. I think it was 2011 or 2012 when they put this together. And they analyzed all the reports, and then they came up with this particular document to represent it. And obviously the reason why I'm showing it on the screen here is if you look in the top right-hand corner, guess what you'll see? Teaching financial literacy. But something else I like about this is the way that certainly, I'm just reading what Susan Salter is saying there. Absolutely, Susan, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, as I say, I've got a couple of granddaughters in second year at Dalhousie and Carleton, and grandson in second year at Mac, and they're all saying exactly the same thing. I'm also noticing that underneath financial literacy, what the students came up with is caring for others, and it's nice to see that that was important. And I'm thinking about how very often we can relate financial literacy to things that are happening in the context of Fort McMurray and the refugee situation here in Canada and new Canadians in general and so on. There's a lot of things there that we can use to link financial literacy to the lives of the students in our classes. Okay, I'm just reading what you're saying, Candice, and yes, that's the reality of things. So, okay. So, what are these resources that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight? Well, they're curriculum-based lesson plans and tools. They introduce the financial concepts and issues. If I go down the 7 items that are showing on the screen there, there's videos that you can share with your students. There is a concept map that I'll be bringing on a bigger screen later on. There are games, currency match, that I will be, if we have time, I'll be giving you a chance to play that. I guess we're not going to be able to do it interactively tonight, but and then underneath that, at the bottom in the middle there's a money timeline, and I found that elementary teachers really, really like that particular one. It starts off with the history of money. I think I've got a slide showing it in 9000 BC, and I've got another slide shot I took which was about 350 BC, but it basically takes it from 9000 BC up to the present time, so that fits in very, very nicely in relating things. There are some cartoon videos in the top right there. There are some interactive quiz games in the middle there. And then there are the lesson resources, which you probably can't read the bottom right-hand one there, but we'll be seeing that in a lot more detail very soon. So there's quite a few resources out there, and I want to show them all to you. The site that we're going to be using mostly is exactly this one here. This is the home page for the Inspire Financial Learning, which is now promoted by, thank you, Susan, which is now promoted by the Ontario Teachers Federation. And the really good news is that this is very much a teacher user-friendly web page. And so if we move on, okay, I guess that was the other resource. I will be showing you how to use it and giving you a chance to actually go out and use it for yourselves in a few minutes' time. But moving on, I mentioned there was a concept map that sort of puts these things there. Again, the writing is probably a little bit too difficult for you to read clearly on your screens there, but the link is going to be on the handout, and I have shown you a snapshot from that. So the 5 categories that they're considering down the left-hand side there are, I'm going to read from right to left, because that's really going down the side: money basics, saving, spending, economy, and planning for the future. Planning for the future, you'll see, doesn't start until the grade 9. I guess there's some reason for that. I could argue that point, but still. And what I've shown you in the right-hand side there is the content for the money basics. So in grade 4, developing financial vocabulary, using financial symbols and terminology, and so on. I won't go through read all of those for you, but that is a useful document. Going along with that, I should also mention that when we get to the ministry's support materials for this, in particular EduGains, or if in French, EduSource, there are some scope and sequence documents there. And one of those I heard on the weekend from the head of that department is going to be updated again. I'm using that word imminently. So, okay. So these are a couple of sample searches that I did, and on this slide here, I was looking for resources for grade 5. Excuse me. But as I mentioned to you, take that grade designation a little bit loosely, because a lot of them you can interpret. Some of them are even, when you go to the resource, it says for grades 4, 5, and 6. Some of them are more specific for a particular course, but very often you can massage these things to fit, your particular need. There's at the conference, in one of the sessions there on the weekend, there was a student, and on Tuesday they had some sort of a plan in their school that in order to give the teachers some prep time, they were going to be combining classes. So she was going to be teaching a grade 1 and grade 6 class, and she was going to be using one of the lessons which is designated as a grade 4 lesson with those students there, and it was going to work fine, perfectly. It would have been great. She was going to have a mixed class of 60 grade 1 and grade 6. Yeah. And that gray slide down the bottom right-hand side there that actually is the link for that timeline that I showed you earlier on. So you can see there's a couple of videos there that are being shown, mostly lesson plans. Actually, I'm going to go back to the home page a second just to point out one thing. Is if you notice on the left-hand side there, these resources are all color-coded as being for teachers, for parents, or for students. Okay? So moving on then from this one. Okay. Yes, I agree about the color coding. That is helpful. I'm just reading Jessica's comment there. Yeah, okay, I'm just making sure I haven't missed any messages in the chat pod there. Okay. Yes, I used to stop by once a week and pick up a class set of grocery store flyers. Well, not actually 3 class sets of grocery store flyers from my department. They were a great resource to use. Okay. So then, yes, moving on from grade 4. Sorry, grade 5. So this is one of those lessons there. So I'm just showing you what sort of package you get. If you had clicked on the lesson plan deserted, actually that's the one on the top left there. If you had actually clicked on that lesson plan and downloaded it, what you get is a 6-page PDF file. And you'll see that this is indicated as actually addressing grades 4 through 8. So this is intended primarily for social studies, geography. It's suggested that it would be a 40-minute lesson, but I found one of the criticisms I've heard most often is that the timing for these is off, and I think actually that is a compliment in the sense that people are seeing how they can go with this framework and they can expand it into something more. So yes. So the curriculum expectations are taken straight out of our current ministry curriculum documents. And then the other 5 pages I've shown in a small scale on the right-hand side there. So there is explicitly the Minds On section. That's halfway down the 2nd page on the left, and then there's the action component. I think I have these 2 pages upside down. And then there's the consolidation component of the lesson, and then there will always be any appendices which contain any other background resource materials you need. In this case, there were some diagrams that were needed, so you can run those off and cut those out, and so on. If there's any worksheets that are needed, they'll be included there as well. So I'm just looking at John's comments there. Okay, so as I say, these lesson plans really are complete and very, very easy to use. Most of my life, which is a very long one, I have always been of the philosophy that what you get for free is often worth what you pay for it. This is the one glaring exception to that rule. These are excellent quality resources, I found. Okay. I'm pleased you're chatting there. I'm not seeing any questions yet about things. If you want, you can also probably put your mic on if you have a mic with you, and you can ask me. As I say, we're a relatively small group and hopefully a friendly group, so I'm very comfortable. If you have any questions, please ask me when you think of them. So this is a couple more searches I did. And this time what I did was I specified the grade, but I also specified the type of resource. So I'm asking for any lesson plans that are indicated for grade 6, and there are 5 of them. And then I'm looking for any lesson plans that are specified for grade 8, and there are 7 of them. And I'm seeing that I was looking to see if any of them were the same, but in this case I don't think any of them are the same. Okay. Okay. This is what you get if you go for the tower building on a budget. It's indicated as a math lesson. You see that the assessment is included there. Everything that you might need for the lesson is included. When I'm actually doing a hands-on workshop with people on this material, this is one of the favorites that I usually give them there. So all you need is straws, paper clips, and some masking tape, and of course some scissors and stuff. One of the neat things that I've heard about this lesson is that many teachers have said, hey, you can expand this and you can also use this to teach people the role within the group, because you can have one person acting as a banker, one person acting as an engineer, and so on. So you can actually give people within the group a role to play. So it's good for building those skills. And I've also heard people talking about how they'll have a competition within the class for cost effectiveness. Who can, build the, looking at the ratio of height to cost. So there's a lot of ways that you can take these ideas and just fly with them. So again, I'm showing you the resources that would be available if you clicked on the screen on the website page for grade 7 and you looked for resources, any subject. This is what you'd come up with. So again, you'll see a lot of videos, not all the same ones as we saw before. Games, timeline is there on the right-hand side at the bottom there, and various other ones. I want to give you a little bit of time to actually go out there soon. This is when we normally we normally play interactively a little bit of a quiz here. Okay, I'm just reading what Candace is saying there. That's great, Candace. That's very good. Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, I've been talking for over 30 minutes, so why don't I give you a break from my voice, and I'm going to ask you to, each of you, go to the main source page that I've just been showing you. Maybe Susan, you can put the link up on the in the chat pod again, and I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes to download a lesson plan, ideally, and then I'd like a couple of you, to share some thoughts, pros and cons. Thanks very much, Susan. Okay, so if I'm showing the time as 8:02, so let's say we come back together at 10 minutes after 8. That will give you time to play with the website a little bit, and as I say, I'll be asking a few of you to share some thoughts about it in the chat pod, please. And if you have any questions anytime, I'll be here all the time. You can get back to me. Thanks, Susan. You're wonderful. Thank you, Susan. I heard that. Okay, so you've had some time to look around things there. Some of you have been posting some comments as we've been going along there, which is just great. So does anybody else have any thoughts they would like to share with us? Yes, I mean, what you're saying there, Monique, is that these resources seem really complete. You don't have to do a little bit. Sometimes you just have to massage them a little bit to fit your own particular personal teaching style, but basically, whatever you need is pretty well there. Yes, Patricia, yeah, and there's a lot there. I think I've been working with this now for probably 4 years, and I think there are still some lesson plans that I haven't come across and looked at yet. So, okay. And yes, that's the nice thing, Karen, is that these are cross-curricular. I mean, when you first think, well, financial literacy and phys ed, I mean, but yes. And there's actually, this is a high school class, that a lesson that's just been one of the new ones that's going to be added imminently, as I said, is one on comparing the cost of a gym membership and setting up a home gym. So, okay, does anybody have any sort of constructive criticism that they would like to share with us? And I should say that if you do have any constructive comments about things, please do share them with us from the website, because nothing is perfect, and we're always looking for ways of improving things. If you have topics for new ideas, one thing that we were talking about on the weekend is talking about the payday loans. I think this is something that is becoming an increasing factor in our society, and I think we need to prepare students for it as well. I just saw your comment there, Patricia, about integrating. Yeah, I mean, it makes things so much, life is not decompartmentalized. And I can say this because I'm teaching to a bunch of elementary teachers now. I mean, you can teach things in a cross-curricular sort of big picture manner. Unfortunately, in the high school, everything is presented to the students very often in a decompartmentalized way. And I have some issues with that, but this isn't the place to talk about that. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing any more. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit now, but as I say, if you have any questions or want me to pause or go back and reinforce anything, then we've got time for it. We're not too rushed, I don't think. So this is another resource which is still under the OSC banner. The links are specifically in the handout that I'll be making available. Probably it's a little bit more aimed for high school students, but there are some things there that certainly can be taught, and you can see there's like a blog there as well. So one of you was referencing the fact that there are blogs available as some of the resources. I'm going to move on. Okay. These are some of the games. And I think we have time. I'm going to suggest that you go in and actually play one of these games. So there's 3 there. Maybe let's decide on one. I'm not sure. Susan, can you post all 3 links, or shall we just let's do the gift thrift one. Can you post the link for that, please, Susan?
Sorry, I had to come back to my other computer. So on the slide, Peter, I have one link, and like in the notes under the slide.
Oh, okay. That link, I think, and then they have they can choose from that
probably
page.
Choose,
yes.
right.
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of something else. There was 3 games.
Yeah, there were 3 on a previous slide. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But that's not the one, Susan, I don't think. This is slide 20. And the link is a little bit longer.
So the link that I just posted is the link. No, this is the link I just posted takes you to the slide that looks like the one you're looking at.
No, that was
I just clicked on it.
This one. Right?
Okay, but on my computer it took me to the one with the 3 games.
Oh, I apologize then. Okay. That's what I wanted, so. Okay.
Yeah, the link works. People are saying in the chat.
Okay,
good.
That's great. Okay, so I suggest you, and I'm looking at what we have, 8:16. So let's take 5 minutes and come back at 8:17. So let's come back at 8:22 together. I'll give you some time to explore this a little bit more. I just wanted you to see some of the other types of features. Not just the lesson plans themselves are great, but there are lots of other great supportive things there that kids are going to just love. Oh, I realize what it is now, Susan. I was only seeing the first few characters of the link, and I hadn't realized that this was, yes. Everything makes sense now, Susan. My apologies. Actually, if you can hear me while you're playing the games, if you're doing that, there's one particular feature of these 3 games that the kids actually love. We'll see if any of you pick up on it at the end there. Yes, Scotty, I agree totally. Have any of you figured out the feature of these 3 interactive quizzes that the students really, really like? Okay. Do you notice anything changing in size? Yes, that's it, Kathleen. The brain gets bigger when you get the answers right, and it gets smaller if you get wrong answers. For some reason, well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious, I guess, but the kids seem to really, really like that particular feature. Okay, I think probably most of you had a chance to play with that now, and so I'd like to share a few of the parent resources from this site before I look at some of the complementary sites or the sites that offer some complementary resources as well. So anybody have any last comments on this before I move on? Okay, you're welcome. As I say, all of these will be in the list of links that I'll be sending to Susan immediately or within a few minutes of the end of this webinar. So I'm going to focus for the next 2 or 3 slides on the resources for parents. And so what I've done here is I went to the main page and I just clicked on the parent section halfway down the left-hand or partway down the left-hand side there in red. And 2 of the sheets which are activities that seem to be especially popular are delayed gratification and, of course, the shopping list. These are great things for the students to be working on at home and with their parents and so on. And one thing which you might not have noticed from the previous slide, and I think it's better in this one here, yes, when you're looking at the parent resources, notice that the filters change now, and so the filtering is done by age and by theme. Okay, so that's just for the parent resources. So, everything that I've been talking about up to this point have all been from the OTF webpage, Inspire Financial Learning. And obviously there are some things there that I didn't have time to show you. I haven't shown you any of the videos. But there's lots of things that you can do to mix things up with the kids and give them a variety of different sort of experiences that reinforce this. For the next part of the session, I'm going to be showing you some of the complementary resources from other sites. And the first place that we'll go to is EduGains. And I'm not sure in this case here if I'm just checking my notes to see if I included. No, I did not. Okay. For those of you that are interested in French, there is also a complementary resource to this, which a lot of people don't seem to know about yet, called EduSource. And I will be including the link for that on the handout, which I'll be sending to Susan. So now, there was something here, Susan, that I'd asked you to do, and obviously, Jessica. Okay, where are you, Jessica? I don't think we got right here yet. Oh yes, okay, that's right. Short memory, sorry, Jessica. Codebook, okay. Okay. Well, this is the last day of November, and it's coming down in liquid form, so that's good. Okay, thanks, Susan. So that's the English version there that Susan has posted in the chat pod there. And I'm going to, okay. Sometimes we are able to go out and show you the actual web page on your screen within this program.
Peter, I think you can probably do that. So up in the top left, just above the whiteboard, there are 3 buttons above where it says New Page. So if you hover over the first one that's highlighted, it's Whiteboard, and the one below that, or sorry, to the right of that is called Application Sharing. If you choose Application Sharing, it's going to show us your computer screen, and you can then take us on a little bit of a tour of this.
Okay, I think I'm actually not going to go that route, if you don't mind, Susan, because
okay.
I'm working with 2 screens, actually 4 screens, but 2 screens for this computer, and so I'm not sure which screen will be coming up, and it might get a little bit confusing. So we'll keep things simple, but I will
Okay.
share with people if they're at the link that you have just given them, and I'm just going to do it on my, I will go to the link myself. Okay, if any of you are at the EduGains page right now, and if you have the screen that is being displayed there on the in the webinar, if you put your mouse over Elementary Resources, just don't click on it, but just put the mouse over Elementary Resources. The one thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is that you'll see that there are subject division association resources that complement these things. Okay? So now, and I had mentioned before, this is the scope and sequence of expectations. There's one here which you can see for grades 4 through 8, and there's also a background document there from the administrator called a sound investment. And I think I heard on the weekend that the scope and sequence document, and I'm assuming it's the elementary one, is about to be updated. Now, going to the Elementary Resources page and clicking on it, you get a choice for selecting one of the grades there. And if you select, just look at my notes, grade 6, and if you expand the section which says videos, viewer guides, and lesson plans, and you'll see 4 courses listed there. I'm doing this as I'm speaking to you on my other computer. So the grades 5 and 6, language and arts, visual arts. If you click on that, what I want you to notice is you have a whole bunch of videos that you can access, video clips that you can access. And what I find is a really, really neat thing about this is that you can focus on the minds-on component, or you can focus on the action component, or you can focus on the consolidation component. You don't have to look at the whole thing if you just want to see a part of it. And this is one of those lessons being delivered in a grade 6 class. So I know a lot of the people that I've spoken to have found that these video clips have been really, really nice. Sometimes it's nice to see somebody else doing it. And even if you don't want to do it exactly the same way, it gives you ideas as to some ideas that you can steal and some ideas that you can modify to your own way of teaching things. So students have found these, teachers have found these video clips really, really useful. I said students because the last time I was talking about this was to a bunch of student teachers at Nipissing. Something else which I spoke earlier on about special ed, and for those of you that have any interest in this area here, I'm not going to show them to you this evening, but on the resource handout that will be posted, there are some examples, but they're very, very well hidden, unfortunately, on these pages. So I'll give you the direct links on the resource page of some of these lessons being taught to the Trillium School for the Hearing Impaired in Milton. I was department head at EC Drury, which is on the same campus, and integrated with the provincial school there. So it's really nice to see these things being taught to the hearing impaired. And that was, I think, a grade 7 or grade 8 lesson. I think there's 2 of them there. And then there's also a video clip of this being taught at the W. Ross McDonald School in Brantford for the sight impaired. I was teaching for 18 years at Tollgate School in Brantford, which is just down the road from W. Ross McDonald. So, excuse me. So I was very interested to see that there, and that is actually a grade 12 class. But as I say, if you are interested in seeing, how sometimes you need to change things a little bit for some of the special needs of the students here, these are obviously some extreme situations, but you may find them helpful. Okay, thanks, John. Are you from that part of the world? I'm not sure if I saw. Okay, well, I was at Tollgate for 18 years, so you know what I mean. Yeah. Okay, a few more links that support these materials. And thank you, Susan. Okay, if you haven't come across Matthews yet, and by the way, the IES stands for Integrated. Is it integrated? I put it on my note here.
Interactive.
Interactive. Yes, thank you, Susan. Interactive Electronic Supports. And this is a relatively new site from the ministry, in addition to the EduGains pages. And Susan has given you the link there. And yes, Jessica, it's virtual manipulatives, all the math and none of the mess. But in particular, one of them, if you go to the page, if you click on Learning Tools, and again, we've actually got plenty of time, so we may even finish early. Am I allowed to do that, Susan? But we've got plenty of time, so I'm going to give you. I'll give you 5 minutes to go and explore this because there's a number of aspects there. But in particular, one thing that is really, really useful in this context is they have just developed a few months ago. Well, actually, it was in May time, ready for the IME conference. They have just developed a money tool, and so for using this on the whiteboard or anything, you've got all the Canadian currency, all the bills, all the coins. You can have the kids going up to the whiteboard and making change and moving things around and counting it out and everything. Okay, so go to the link on matthews.ca that Susan gave us just now. You can scroll up in your chat pod to get it back again. I'm guessing, John, do they still have cents there? Oh my gosh. Well, I heard the other day that they're thinking of doing away with the nickel. Did I hear that? So you'll see a number of interactive resources there that, if you hadn't seen them before, you might find useful. But yes, the money one, if you open that. Well, I guess, John, we can use that little brown thing there to reinforce the rounding skills with our students. So. I keep on looking at your name, John. I had a student once called John Gerard. That was in Oakville. I don't think. But if you'd had me as a teacher, you would probably have remembered it for one reason or another. Okay, so that's good, Jessica. Something else? And okay, John. Well, I taught at Queenie Park in Oakville, and then Lester B. Pearson in Burlington, and then E.C. Drury. Okay, now I'm wondering if this is a mobile question. I'm reading Susan's comment there. She cannot access the money on this site. It is mobile compatible. So on the page which you see in front of you right now on the screen, click on the Learning Tools, and then everything is in alphabetical order, I think. So you have to scroll right down to the M's. Thank you, Jessica. You're reading my mind. This is scary. Okay. Great, Susan. Okay. And I get the sense that some of you are doing a little bit of exploring here, so I'll give you a couple more minutes here. But certainly, I really wish that I'd had that money tool available. Thank you, Susan. You're wonderful. That's my Susan here. Good question, Jessica. I'm thinking that they can, but I'm not sure. But otherwise, you can just use the smartboard interactively at the site. And, you know. The last school I was working at, 85% of my students were identified. And so I had to mix things up and do things interactively. And I mean, that would have been a wonderful thing to do with them. Okay, I'll give you another minute and then we'll come back to the main webinar. Okay, so just a couple more things to share with you before we finish things. Thank you, Jessica. Okay. Okay, so this is some resources from Junior Achievement. And okay, and a couple of screenshots there that I took from their webpage very recently. November was Financial Literacy Month. It has been for the last 3 or 4 years I've been doing this, I think. Not just Junior Achievement, this is across Canada. And Junior Achievement always likes to support that, and they put things on. I know the head of the education department there, he and I know each other very, very well, and he's been putting out a tweet every single day for this month about something about financial literacy. But all through the year, they have a lot of very good programs and a lot of content that complements what you would get from OTF and from the Ministry EduGains page. So definitely something else to add to your toolkit. And then I was quite surprised yesterday when I was there. Well, I'm not trying to be smart, Colleen, but the answer is yes. There are things there for, if you go there and look around, you'll see that there are student pages and teacher pages. Probably I'll say there's a majority of the web pages are content for the teachers to access and then share with the students. And the bottom right-hand side there, I included that because I was surprised when I saw that that was introducing students in grades 3 through 6 to the possibilities of business. So I think there's a lot there that's useful. And then there's a new app on financial literacy, and Susan has posted the link for that, and it's on the resources that will be posted later on as well. It's okay, the eMe link that Susan posted in the chat pod there recently. So that's something else which you might want to check into and introduce your students to. And finally, there's a source of materials called Make It Count online. And again, this is another complementary resource. There's a lot of other material that you can get there which you as a teacher can either use as background for what you're doing or which you can share with parents. And as I say, these are all in the links that you get there. And I'm thinking that that is pretty well what I had to share with you. So those were the resources. I think I gave you my two sort of semi-official emails at the very beginning, and that this one here is my email here in Guelph. And if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to get back in touch with me. I am sort of retired. My family laughs when I say that. And as I say, the person at OTF who's responsible for these materials is Ian Pettigrew. If you have any comments to share with him, he'll be very pleased. Okay, thank you for your comments there. My goal in these is to give you some things which you feel you can use with your students, if not tomorrow, certainly in the foreseeable future. And so I hope some of you have found some things here. And from the comments that I've been seeing in the chat pod there, I think some of you do recognize that there are some resources here that are teacher user friendly. We don't have time to spend hours and hours searching for things and then fixing things and so on.
So Peter, I'm going to maybe just close up here, and if people have any questions, Peter will be here for a few more minutes, but I have a couple of slides just at the end that I'd like to talk to people about in terms of providing feedback to OTF. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to advance to, I'll advance to this next slide, and I'm putting 3 links into the chat. The first one is a feedback link. Now, if everything goes smoothly, which, I'm not sure I can really guarantee that that's going to be the case, but when things are going smoothly, as soon as you close your Blackboard Collaborate application tonight, it should automatically send you a link to the feedback survey. And then OTF loves to get this feedback, and in fact, it's very important to OTF's existence, your feedback, because it helps to drive their funding if they can show that we're getting feedback from our participants that's positive, or even just any feedback, just in terms of helping us create our programming. So we make that request of you to please take a few minutes and do that. The resource link, you'll notice that I just posted, it says in brackets, active by noon tomorrow. So one of the things that I will do after we close out tonight is I go on to the OTF website. It's a WordPress site, and I'll just add the links to Peter's resources as well as to the recording of this session, which once again, if everything's going smoothly, once you log out of this session, we should all get a link to that recording. And the OTF calendar is also linked there. We have, I think, 3 more sessions next week, and then taking a break until January, but we have a wonderful set of webinars that run from January until May. So lots of great things, lots of math, technology, kindergarten, and new curriculum. And of course, this falls into the new curriculum. This has been an awesome webinar, Peter. I'm really excited about I was an elementary teacher before I became a music teacher and an IT person, and I taught a lot of math and used to really try and build in some financial real-life situations. But wow, what an awesome set of resources, and you clearly are the right person to be sharing it with us because you're so connected to it and so knowledgeable about it. So Peter, thank you very much for a great session tonight.
Well, thank you, Susan. I might point you in the direction. There's a really nice, I don't know if it's a grade 9 lesson plan on zero budget band.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, very interesting.
You can link financial literacy with music.
There you go. I'm going to stop the recording and show you a couple more quick slides. But thanks, everyone, for your participation, and a big thank you to Peter.